Hello and welcome to the another round of webinar on handling notices, reconciliation, and role of technology under GST. So today I am being accompanied by my colleague Akansha, who would be taking a major part of this webinar. Today we would be talking about some common misses and the best practices under the GST return filing system. You will realize that these are the misses which generally result in reconciliation item creation and then the request from the department to deal with those reconciliation items. We'll also touch upon what are the types of reconciliation under GST, how technology is shaping up the future of GST, and lastly, the way forward to a taxpayer, how to mitigate themselves with this changing era of law and technology. So, Akansha, over to you.
Thank you, Gaurav. A very good morning to everyone. So, as Gaurav already briefed, that we will be first discussing the common misses and the best practices to be followed. So, starting with the common misses on the outward supply reporting, it is very commonly noted that tax is paid under the incorrect head, meaning thereby in GSTR1, the IGST is disclosed in place of CGST and SGST or vice versa situation. On the other hand, in GSTR 3B, IGST is paid in place of CGST and SGST. Considering these POS based errors, the consequences, the ITC unavailability to the recipient. So there can be an issue that since the invoice has been wrongly issued or the invoice has been wrongly reported while filing 1 and 3B, the recipient may not be able to avail the ITC and it may lead to a loss of ITC to them. Also, there would be a reconciliation issue with the books of accounts. So this is a great loss for the recipients. So considering these errors, the recommendation is that for the past transactions, an appropriate adjustment should be made in GSTR 1 in the amendment table and GSTR 3B. If the adjustment is not possible due to any reason, then the correct tax should be paid and refund should be claimed. Considering these changes, there is a section in CGST Act, Section 77, which talks about all these scenarios of the tax being paid under incorrect tax head. The section says that if it is subsequently held that the tax has been paid under the wrong tax head, then the refund can be claimed as per Rule 89. However, recently a circular has clarified that another clause 1A will be inserted through Rule 89 and the refund can be claimed within 2 years from the date on which the tax has been paid under the correct tax head. So this is a big relaxation for all the taxpayers to ensure that there is no loss. In future, we can just take care that the determination of POS is done correctly while reporting in the returns and also when the invoices are issued to the recipients. Also, tax liability should be reconciled with the books of accounts before the GST returns are filed. Moving forward to another common miss on the outward supply is reporting of the B2B supplies as B2C supplies. So this can lead to few consequences such as ITC loss to the recipient because the B2B supplies are reported and on an invoice-wise basis. However, the B2C supplies which are reported in one are not reflected in GSTR 2A and 2B, according to which the recipient, when filing GSTR 3B and performing the reconciliation basis 2B, will be unable to avail the ITC on such transactions. So there will be a reconciliation issue as well between the books and GST returns. So considering these consequences, our recommendation would be that adjust incorrect reporting B2C supplies in future returns and upload the tax invoices under the correct B2B supply head in subsequent return. Also, customer master should be updated in every month to ensure there is no incorrect reporting and the errors are rectified at an early stage. Reconciliation should be done with the books to be performed on before the filing of GSTR1 is done. The third common misses that we notice generally while filing GSTR1 are the non-disclosures in GSTR1. The first non-disclosure is nil-rated supplies, exempt, and non-GST supplies. So on a prima facie view, they appear to be all similar transactions. However, there is a thin line between all these transactions, and taxpayers generally confuse themselves while reporting the transactions under these three heads and end up reporting nothing, or they report under the wrong tax head. So considering these errors, it's very important to understand the difference between these heads and make the correct disclosure when we are filing GSTR1. Another common miss is the HSN disclosure in Table 12 of GSTR1 of the goods and services. However, right now, there is a manual updation facility which has been recently introduced by the government, basis which we can manually enter the HSN in case the required HSN does not appear under the drop-down menu. And accordingly, the description will auto-populate. The third miss in non-disclosure of GSTR1 are the document series. Although all the document series of invoices, etc., are duly reported by the taxpayers, however, there are few important transactions like the RCM supplies with respect to the self-invoices which are generated, job work transactions, the delivery challans. So in all these cases, we generally know that there are misses from the taxpayer's end while filing GSTR1. The last common miss that we would be discussing today for the outward supply reporting are the most important employee recoveries. As we know that in today's scenario, this is the hottest topic which is under discussion. And there are a lot of ambiguities regarding the applicability of GST on all the types of employee recoveries, namely canteen facility, bus transportation, insurance, etc. So sometimes it happens that either the companies are not issuing proper invoices, or even if it is issued, they are not reported while filing GSTR1. So the consequences, there are reconciliation issues between 1 and 3B. There are non-compliances if you are not discharging GST liability on the employee recoveries, or not issuing the correct document, or not reporting the same in the GSTR1 and 3B. So considering these misses and consequences, the recommendation would be identify all such transactions on a priority basis while making the payment in GSTR 3B and ensure that nothing is missed, and upload consolidated invoices while filing GSTR 1 under B2C supplies. Also, in future, it would be advisable that if the taxpayers maintain a separate invoice series for employee recoveries, it will be an advantageous situation because you will be able to identify such transaction at an early stage, and this will help you to avoid any errors while filing your GSTR 1.
So, if you really look at the reality now, this return is the starting point of your compliance. And this eventually converts into annual return, 99C, etc. I'll put it in a very simple way. You can't take a philosophy of chalta hai attitude on this return. The smallest detail is being scrutinized and is being questioned. For example, we talked about exempt supply, non-taxable supply. From a return perspective, you put number anywhere, it will not result in payment of taxes. But eventually, when it comes to the application of reversal, and if that is being asked and invoked by the department, they are definitely going to rely on this piece of information. It's your admitted number. You can't go ahead and take a plea that this is something which was misreported. Similarly, you talk about HSN, and I'll specifically say from a completeness standpoint, if you have given few HSN, not all HSN, and that is not being mentioned to the department, then we are coming across scenarios where department is actually questioning the nature of your business. So you filed multiple HSN in your registration, you have different HSN in your returns, and then they are being investigating that you admitted something at a startup GST. Now you are doing trading, manufacturing of something else which is not known to us. So all these questions can be very well avoided provided we are making full effort in giving complete information in this return. So from our perspective, this is a prevention which can be taken, and that is completely in your hand. We'll discuss inward supply transaction in coming slides, and we'll also see how these inward supplies misreporting can impact you.
Thank you, Gaurav. So now we will be discussing the common misses on the inward side. So the first common miss and the major common miss that we note during the audits, etc., is the ITC availment under the incorrect tax head, meaning thereby that the ITC is availed of ITC, CGST, and SGST basis the invoice reflecting different POS from that of taxpayer's registration. So a very simple example of the hotel expenses, the hotel invoices which are issued. Generally, in all the hotel invoices, the tax charge is CGST and SGST. So, for example, if the hotel is located in Haryana and the recipient is located in Delhi, the tax invoice will be issued by the Haryana supplier in CGST and SGST head because the place of supply would be the immovable properties location, which is in Haryana. So considering that, the invoice will be CGST and SGST. However, the error which occurs, the consequences that ITC is wrongly availed under the incorrect head. Why this error happens is because generally the recipient either looks at the tax which is charged on the invoice and takes the ITC accordingly in the Delhi location, which is in the first place not allowed because the place of supply is in Haryana. Or secondly, the issue can be that basis the GSTN reported by the supplier in their invoice of Haryana, we end up taking the ITC under the IGST head. So these are very common misses which are done by the taxpayers while claiming ITC. So incorrect computation might happen of eligible ITC under Rule 36(4) of CGST rules. So the recommendation would be that due regard should be given at the time of claiming ITC on the POS. Ensure while claiming ITC that the POS has been correctly mentioned on the invoice and accordingly the ITC is taken. POS should be matched with the vendor GSTIN, especially in case of ineligible ITC. Some non-disclosures which we generally notice during filing of GSTR 3B are the disclosure of reversals pertaining to Rule 42 and 43 of CGST rules, which are on account of exempt supplies. So, for example, in case of Canteen, etc., these reversals are wrongly reported under others head instead of Rule 42 and 43 head. Another is ineligible ITC under Section 17(5). In most of the cases, these disclosures are never made while filing GSTR 3B. And therefore, it is advisable that even though it will not impact your final liability, it's a good compliance that if we make a proper separate disclosure under 17(5) ineligible ITC while filing GSTR 3B. The last non-disclosure is exempt nil-rated purchases are not disclosed properly when we are filing GSTR 3B. So they might seem very small errors, but they are some important disclosures which might end up resulting in some issues while filing GSTR 9 and 9C at the time of the audits or departmental audits.
And I also feel if you make all this disclosure, it will overall complete your 2A activity. So if you have reconciled your 2A and you have these data points, if you make this disclosure, then it will give more comfort to the department that, okay, you are conscious of claiming credit based on 2A. You are making a clear filtering of what is eligible, what is not eligible. and whatever information is available based on that, you are putting this in return. So it will build more confidence in your returns with the department, and it will ease out your explanations to them in any of the inquiry and investigations.
Rightly said. So another common miss on the invert side is 3B does not accept the negative values, and the same was clarified through a circular 26 in the earlier financial years. So the value of credit note and tax invoice is reported as an adjustment with the value of taxable supply and tax payable while filing GSTR 3B, where the value of credit note and tax exceeds the value of taxable supply and tax payable. The adjustment of credit note should be allowed to the extent taxable value and the tax payable. The recommendation would be that in case there is any excess credit note value which is beyond the tax amount which is payable through GSTR 3B, then the adjustment of differential value of credit note should be claimed in return of subsequent months, or the claim should be refunded in specific cases. There were few scenarios which are clarified through circular number 137 2020, wherein the advanced situations were discussed. So now, considering all these misses and errors, we will be now discussing the reconciliation issues which are very common. So we run a poll question which says, has reconciliation and mismatch notices increased the compliance burden? Surprisingly, the answer was yes, it has increased the burden. And it is very normal that there are so many reconciliations which have been introduced by the government lately that this has created so much confusion between the taxpayers, what to consider, what not to consider, and when to do the reconciliations. So let us ease out all these issues and let us try to make it helpful for all our audiences. Let us understand the need for reconciliation first. It will definitely help from the loss of ITC for the taxpayers. It will minimize the departmental litigation due to the mismatches. It will help in saving this manpower time in responding to the department, and readiness for departmental audits, assessments, and litigations. Now let us understand the different types of reconciliations on the outward and inward side. Starting with the outward reconciliations, liability declared in GSTR 1 vis-a-vis GSTR 3B. The most common reasons for reconciliation differences are incorrect adjustment of credit notes, amendment in the invoices made in GSTR 1 not considered while making payment in GSTR 3B, incorrect tax head reporting that we have already discussed in our earlier slides. RCM taxable value included in taxable turnover. So as we know that GSTR 1 does not require the disclosure of RCM liabilities. However, in GSTR 3B, there is a specific disclosure for all the RCM liabilities and the RCM ITC. Liability declared in GSTR 3B vis-a-vis books is also an important reconciliation to be done. And the reasons for differences would be the deemed supplies like stock transfer, etc., provisions posted in the books, financial credit notes or commercial credit notes, and purchase returns, various types of employee recoveries, exempt supplies, no supplies. Another important reconciliation on the outward side is liability declared in GSTR 1, 3B, and e-bill. So this is a reconciliation which is not backed up by any legal provision in the law. However, we have noticed that there are a lot of notices which are issued by to the taxpayers by the department. So considering that, it is important that these reconciliations are maintained. The misses can be because of the delivery challan transactions, like in case of job work, same state supplies, meaning supply between the same GSTIN, consignment value is less than 50,000, which exempts the generation of e-way bill, valuation difference. Moving on to the reconciliations on the inward side, the very important reconciliation which is known by all the taxpayers is the ITC availed in GSTR 3B vis-a-vis 2A and 2B. So first of all, let us understand what exactly do you mean by GSTR 2A and 2B and which one to use at what time. The very important thin line between 2A and 2B are the details captured. So if we carefully look at the formats of 2A and 2B, the details captured in 2A are more on the invoice-wise disclosure of the invoices reported by vendor in GSTR 1. However, in case of GSTR 2B, it also provides details of ITC. There's an ITC statement which is provided as an auto-populated table. So therefore, we get the invoice-wise details. In addition to that, we get the ITC statement of eligible and ineligible ITC in 2B. 2A is a dynamic statement because it keeps on updating on a real-time basis. However, GSTR 2B, on the other hand, is a static statement which gets freezed on 13th of every month, and therefore there will be no GSTR 1 will be considered if filed beyond the time limit of 11th of every month. Filing status of vendor returns. So this is a new facility which has been lately introduced in GSTR 2A and 2B. So in 2A, the filing status of vendor in GSTR 1 along with 3B both are available, which can help us track that whether the 1 and 3B both have been filed by the vendors or not. And accordingly, we can do a vendor master reconciliation. However, in GSTR 2B, as of now, there is only GSTR 1 filing status which is available. So considering this difference, now let us understand what are the reasons for differences between 3B and 2A 2B. The first reason is delayed receipt of goods or delayed booking of invoices. This can be because of various reasons. Invoices not furnished by the vendors in their GSTR 1. Invoices furnished in wrong GSTIN of same PAN. Ineligible ITC. And preceding year invoices which have been reported after a certain period of time. The last difference can be because of the delayed receipt of bill of entry for reconciliation. So presently, the details of bill of entry in case of import of goods is reflected in GSTR 2A and 2B. However, there are many scenarios that a complete picture of the bill of entries filed might not be reflected in 2A and 2B. Considering that, we might miss out the ITC availed on import of goods. So it's a good practice that we keep on making a reconciliation for all these bill of entries with our GSTR 3B so that no ITC is missed on import of goods. Next reconciliation on inward side is ITC availed against invoices for which payment made after 180 days from date of issuance of invoice. Departmental audit notices for turnover and ITC mismatch between 9, GSTR 1 and 3B. So these are the recent notices, departmental audit notices that most of the taxpayers have started receiving. And it's important that we keep preparing our reconciliations in a timely manner to ensure that we are ready with robust documentation while presenting while filing the replies to the departmental audit notices. Now let us understand that what are the reconciliations which are currently maintained by all the industry-wide companies. Very commonly on the outward side, GSTR 1 and 3B, GSTR 1, 3B vis-a-vis the books. On the inward side, GSTR 3B vis-a-vis 2A and 2B. However, there are few reconciliations which are not frequently maintained by the taxpayers. On the outward side, the e-way bill reconciliation with 1 and 3B. Inward reconciliation with GSTR 3B or books vis-a-vis 2A, 2B. So the reconciliations on the inward side would be for the RCM supplies, which are reported by the registered vendors in GSTR 2A, 2B, but we might miss while making the payment in GSTR 3B. Imports, like we discussed in the preceding slide, and other ITC which pertains to past periods. The last very important reconciliation I would like to emphasize on is vendor master reconciliation. So as I discussed in the last slide, that vendor master reconciliation basically means to analyze that whether the compliances are being done regularly by the vendors or not. Because as we know that recently some notices have been issued to the taxpayers stating reversal of ITC in case the tax has not been duly deposited by the supplier to the government. So to avoid all these situations, it's important that a vendor master reconciliation is done between 2A and 3B to ensure that non-compliant vendors can be tracked and follow-ups can be done in a timely manner. So any point you would like to add, Gaurav?
If I'm looking at this slide, my only reaction is the number of reconciliation which you have put up on this slide. It exceeds the number of returns which somebody has to file in a month. It's surprising and interesting, but unfortunately, this is how the law is being unfolding itself. The other challenge is if you have whether prepared it, not prepared it, whether it's being backed by law or not, doesn't matter. If department has formally issued you a letter calling this information, or in few cases we are also seeing they are issuing summons to get this basic data points. You may well argue that summon is something which should not be issued, but the problem is until you will submit this information, you will not get a clearance from them. So I think, in my view, the only focus point for the industry should be the more proactiveness and making all this reconciliation to be a part of their daily process. So you can't run away by saying, okay, I have filed the return, done the compliance, but at the same time, if you are not doing these reconciliations, especially in timely manner, then you would be forced to do it as and when department will ask. And the larger the time period in doing this reconciliation, the more the problem for you, because the reasons for reconciliation can be very well identified at the beginning. If you go back, look at for a data of past 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, then it is going to be a more time investment for doing these kind of reconciliations for you.
Right. So let us look at some practical challenges that we face while replying to the GST notices. So there are frequent summons which are issued by the department to produce evidence and documents. One common summon which is issued under section 70. So it is only based on the production of the evidences and documents. No legal backing for few reconciliations, like we talked about the e-bill reconciliation. Reconciliation notices for the past time period. Blocking of credit ledger or suspension or cancellation of registration. So recently there have been a lot of cases where the credit ledgers have been blocked without any intimation, prior intimation, without any notice, etc. And suddenly when the credit ledger is blocked, it definitely impacts the taxpayer while filing their GSTR 3B. So for all these cases, we generally have to visit the department to understand the reason why it has been blocked and to get it unblocked after filing the required documents. So it's important that we file our returns within the given timelines, they are correctly filed, and all the reconciliations are taken care of at an advanced stage. So from here, the role of technology part would be taken by my partner, Gaurav. Over to you, Gaurav.
Yeah, thank you, Akansha. If you simply ask what is the solution for all this problem, if I have to summarize this in 2 words, technology and proactiveness, that's the only solution. And let us understand how technology can make your life easy on all these compliances under GST. We run a quick poll on this part, whether your ERP is integrated with GST in development. And interestingly, the most of the participants have responded yes, the integration has happened. Uh, But I think few more things needs to be done in terms of reconciliation. How technology can help you under GST is that let us understand what is the starting point of getting all these notices. A, all your information is now being stored with the department in their portal. So most of these notices are AI based, where they are getting a ready-made information about taxpayer, about the percentage of differences between credits in books, credit in 2A, vis-a-vis supply declared in GSTR 1 and 3B. So that's the starting point, which is the database the department is using to provide or to issue notices to you. Second, if you are using a technology to do all these compliances, and when we're talking about technology, it's not simply filing of return at GST portal. It's kind of integration of your systems, generation of report to the best extent which can be used without human intervention or minimal human intervention in creating the return. So if that kind of automation is possible, then A, it reduces your chances to put an error in the return, and it also reduces the manual effort of your employees to do that. There are a lot of developed softwares which are now available, and most of these softwares are also quite, I'll say, reasonably priced. So instead of doing Excel-based work using Portal as a mean to file your return, you can also consider using third-party software. It also offers additional features in terms of the amendment trail, etc. And most importantly, the information is stored in this softwares for quite a reasonable period of time. So it also gives you access to get the past information as and when that is being required for any purpose under GST. The the major problem under GST which we are foreseeing is the data management. So you will get correct access of data for 6 months and year, but if somebody now asks to provide precise data which was used for doing 2017-18 filings annual return, I think that's a big no-no. Like a lot of players are struggling to get the exact data basis which all those compliances have been done. The other problem is maybe 5 years, 6 years back when we were into the old law, then we had a concept of file creation. Like every factory used to create an excise file, VAT files where you have ready information available for backups and file return. Now, portal or software can give you the copy of file return, but they don't have the capability to, store the backup data which is being used. And now, since there is a concept of multi-state registration, be it a service provider or let's say multiple warehouses, you have to create separate GST and separate returns for them. So storing that data is also very important. It's a long-term thing which should be looked upon, and that is the only thing which can help you in putting correct information to the department as and when called up. If you have lost a data, if something is incorrectly available, then that is something which we have to owe. You can't go and tell the department that for XYZ reason this data is not available. They will always have your data. For them, it's a clear-cut case of non-compliance. They'll issue a notice, which is unavoidable litigation you have to go through. And lastly, the better or the timely mismatches you will identify, the better actions you can take in terms of adjustment, etc. So this is how technology can ease out your life under GST. What should be the way forward in terms of notices and the existing scenarios of technology? First and foremost, we emphasize during this complete webinar, proactiveness is the only key. If I'll say on a reasonable basis, there should be a practice of doing quarterly reconciliation and data management. It will ease a lot of burden on compliance part. It will also ease a lot of burden on meeting the departmental investigation and submission of data. If those exercises are being done at a year-end audit, then there is going to be a lot of struggle for collating the data for 12 months. Also, the audit timeline is 12 months per 6 months, which means there is a window of, let's say, another couple of months where you will go back and do this reconciliation. And on an overall basis, we have not factored the scenario where your tax thing changes, your old employees responsible for doing these returns are no more with the organization. So as of now, all these returns databases, these are more employee centric rather than process centric. So that methodology needs to be changed. There are a lot of data management software over and above the ASP, GSP for return filing. Those can be used like we have a very reasonable technology of OneDrive clouds now, which are available with every Microsoft license, any other third party license. So those should be well used. These are something which are readily available with the industry. This is not something a new database has to be created. If you can very well use those services, those clouds, prepare a process where every return, backup, etc., has to be mandatory uploaded. It will make process more smooth and a tech-based process rather than employee-centric process. Most importantly, if you see now, the trend is the moment you get a notice, it starts with the macro level analysis. Just to give you an example, department is more concerned on the point that credit as per 2A is X and you have claimed credit X plus 1 in your return. So their focus is on the delta factor where you have availed excess credit. For the moment, they are not getting into what is there in 2A. For them, if there is a credit in 2A, it's kind of an accepted credit from their side. There could be an ineligible credit, but the reality is they are not getting into that data points as of now. So, what summation you are making, in what shape and form these summations you are making, is a matter of strategy now. It is all about understanding how they are going to look at your data from macro level and in what shape and form you would be filing the data with them. And also, the larger point is they will be acting on the micro level information that is being filed by you. They don't have a backend access of the micro level information you will file. They'll only get overall yearly mismatches or monthly mismatches. So, how you're presenting the data is something which is very important, and that should be well strategized before you make any submissions on reconciliation part to the department. Whatever is unreconciled, whatever they fail to understand in your submission is something on which they are not going to put their head. They'll simply take it to be a transaction on which tax is unpaid or undue credits have been claimed. They'll give you a notice and it is with you to contest and win it before the higher authority. I'll say this is something which is the trend now. Like people or industry have acknowledged that there is so much volume of investment, reconciliation, etc., which is required. It's better that we focus more on business and macro level things rather than doing this monthly reconciliation, filings, responding to the department, appearance before department. I think for some reason department has created a new profile, new KRA within the companies which nobody envisaged. So your existing team A sometimes is not capable to go represent to the department. You go hire an expert to do that. The only problem in this scenario is he will take its own time to deep dive into your data. You will have challenge explaining the data. See, at the end, everybody want a win-win situation, a favorable outcome from a departmental proceeding. So one possible solution which is being looked up by industry is to outsource this overall process from day one where complete start to end responsibility is with the third party service provider to do reconciliation, to file return, and to represent the company wherever there are reconciliation centric notices issued by the department. Lastly, there could be a timely health check or mock audits by an independent agency. Before department reaches out to you, it is better that we check our house and clean it up wherever there is a requirement. This will help on a long-term basis to industry. When you are well prepared to deal with a crisis, then I believe it's a half battle which is already won. With this, we would like to wind up this webinar. Thank you for joining us and giving us an opportunity to add value to you. In case you have any follow-up question to us, we have given our email IDs. Please feel free to write to us on your queries. Thank you, and I wish you a good day.